DLGF rep.
Yeah, okay. Well, that helps.
You're welcome to grab a chair.
I'm gonna
Sit wherever.
grab a chair.
And we've got plenty of chairs.
You think so? Okay. Hard fight now,
But I know what you mean on like meeting dynamics, everybody has to see the things that are.
It's like church.
Yeah. I mean,
It's, I mean,
It's
like
a
you
thing.
want to like cause a stir, just go like pick a church.
Yeah,
And-
sit in someone's place.
And just go sit, like, well, really, any place, like, it's an active church. Every pew, like, towards the front, the very front, and the very back, the middle, who knows? But people, like, have rows in the back, because they want to get out early, and they have rows in the front, because, I don't know, for whatever reason. But, just to park yourself there,
My grandma's always sat on
And-
the left-hand side, the second one.
yeah, and, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
you could almost like put a sign that says reserved, except that if you're a visitor, you wouldn't know that.
So,
Which is why
I was wondering about that
I,
500,000.
this was, I guess, 20 years ago now. I got the bright idea that what I
Oh,
wanted
yes?
to do was
Just
do
how that's, I've not seen
Reviews
it
of
come
church
out,
services.
so
the way someone
I
might.
didn't know if
write a
you
review
knew
of a
anything
book.
or,
So
it's been, you know, had been.
actually critique the,
I
the
doubt they-
sermon, the content, because it's something that
I mean,
the choir would.
I'm sure they have expected.
Talking about the reviews, I
Roxanne, can you hear me?
did, this is when I was living up there.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, super. So my understanding is I just need to, you'll turn it on, right? Get it started.
Turn what on?
Oh, just start the meeting.
Like, you know, here's the thing.
Oh, it's already started.
Okay, let me see if I can get the owl thing going here.
Have you switched to Teams as well?
Well, because this one is by the county and they're doing Teams now,
It was
then
an amazing
we do
service.
that.
It's like there's not, it's like we would just be in for unending grief.
Some
But
kids
I mean, to me, it was kind of like, this is like, none of them, I didn't write them up mean.
Quiet week.
I mean, I was.
Okay. The owl actually works here.
Yeah, I was surprised at how quiet.
Yeah.
Hello?
I don't know,
Hey,
I
How
thought
are you?
Good, how are you?
it was still pretty. Back to norm.
Can you see the owl, Rachel?
Sketchy water things going on.
Mike, what's going on?
So what are her options besides that?
Snow, the snow back. Yeah, good job on the weather.
Everybody in my family wants to do that.
Yeah, I brought some of that back with me. I was actually in Arizona.
Get it frozen.
And snow.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like super hot.
So who's your team?
So Europe and Dallas, and, you know, it only took 53 years or whatever it is.
Good, how are you? I did, but I had like,
Only half as long as the Cubs, so.
Hey, Rachel, can you see the owl?
Yeah.
remember, are the Reds out there now?
The Reds are. And the Cubs are too. So, and the White Sox, so there's a lot of right around us. So, I did reach out to Trent and let him know where you're at, so it sounds good.
No.
Listen to
See, I would have pronounced it, yes.
Is he gonna be here?
You know how to pronounce sites? I was gonna ask him.
Did you make a
What?
Did you make a Keurig coffee?
Good to see you, man.
Very good.
Have a seat.
At least I'm free.
So just FYI, I have a meeting at 1, so finish by 1.
Okay, we'll move quickly, and actually,
Maybe that'll
if
pick it
that's all right, you know, mention it, everybody used to it. We can move the visit point to the downtown reports to after the. And then I'll get some. Not a gavel, even
Yeah.
Mike,
If we've done all the voting.
Mike
Yeah.
Ross things
yeah,
out.
yeah. Mike and Calusa selling great stories, you can get up and leave.
He didn't even
You'll
hear
only-
him and
You'll
unnoticed.
you'll only hurt feelings. You won't
That's
hurt
okay. I won't impair our bonding rate or anything like that.
Good. I knew that would be right.
I had a 45-minute eclipse presentation today.
I think they're sweet to do that for me.
That's like 10 times longer than the eclipse.
Yeah.
That's what we always say. It takes forever to organize the parade, and it takes like an hour for it to be over.
Same with the quilt though. Takes a week to put up, 3 hours to take out.
I don't know why this
How about
is,
the Kentucky
Mike, if
Derby?
you
How
do
long is
these,
that actually? 3 minutes.
No rap, and then it's all over. What?
this is on, this is on.
Mhm.
I'm not getting like the Alda pickup going all the way around like it normally does.
So does that set up the same way as
Yeah, it's fine.
Zoom did?
Yeah, but for some reason, I don't know why the,
What?
You get board member wise, you still looking
Always looking for people.
I always.
You got one?
I talked to, can't think of her name now, because I'm trying to say it, but Bill runs the home. She's been out there for a little bit.
I'll call him. For sure.
I talked to her before Christmas about it,
Yes.
and we were supposed to get together, we just haven't been able to get together, but she's been in place for a while. That's kind of what I was thinking, is like, somebody just hop out.
I'm in. Should be fine.
the only thing is, hey, Mike, do you want to look at this and see why this isn't picking up? And I don't know if it has to do with Rachel starting something on her end. You know how we would have a, where's the view? Here's the view, gallery view, speaker, usually twirls around.
the sound?
Yeah, the sound is there. Yeah, and you're getting the sound on your end. But it's the
It's just the-
Well, I can get
camera.
mine up.
The rotating on
Yeah.
the view?
Yeah, and I have a feeling somebody put a setting on it. Didn't tell me.
Where you can share.
I'm so sorry. I got confused, but if you want to try to go to settings and then device settings, it's
Oh.
the three little dots and then device settings.
Okay, here we
And
go.
then,
Okay.
and then under video settings, make sure that the owl is selected and not like the laptop camera.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. Device.
Oh, stop.
No, this is the last day of winter, and it's cold.
It was snowing when I started driving here.
Yes.
I've got device settings. I've got audio.
Swing out of the-
Yeah. Don't have
And
to.
then
Video
at the
settings.
bottom, it should be video
Oh, there you
and
go.
then camera.
There you go. Okay. I mean, I don't know that we have to have the owl. Integrated webcam, do you think?
What are the options on there?
Integrated
I
webcam.
still have
That's the only one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mike, I was chatting with one of my curmudgeonly friends the other day.
Owl.
He said that we ought to suggest that we ought to be paying.
I think. Oh, and there you go. Well, it's helpful if it's all the way plugged in.
That was not me, although I think they counted curmudgeon.
I've heard several people say I'm getting out of town.
I'm not going anywhere. Hopefully trespass on the farm field behind my house.
Man, I'm gonna be right in the thick of it.
Are you?
There we go. That should help.
When the
It's
end of the
now
world
officially
happens,
plugged
I want
in.
people around.
Okay.
You're gonna be at the stadium, or you're gonna be right
I'm
next
right next
to,
to them, yeah.
what's his name?
I'm gonna make sure food's out there so people.
William Jack.
Look out. Yeah,
Who's he gonna get it?
they want people want their hot dog.
Walking
Their hot
taco.
dog, they want their walking taco. You
Hey,
don't have
we may
that.
need to take a sleeping bag.
Okay. Life is good.
But you know, every community is planning something.
I can theoretically, it'll be a long walk, but I could walk to the stadium.
For food, yes.
Well, I'm doing, but the advice I've both heard and am carrying on is treat it like a blizzard.
Yeah.
Well prepared a couple days in advance, stock up,
Well, that's why.
be
they
prepared
tell
not to be able to
people,
drive it.
That's right.
Get your gas, car gas, and,
Just like Y2K.
yeah, just like the blizzard.
Why?
I'm anxious to see if it'll really be like.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Remember Y2K? It was all prepared,
Oh,
satellite.
remember that.
I was with my daughter.
I stayed over the
Everyone
hotel
thought
that
the
night.
world
Wait for everything to blow up on me.
Wait for it to all go down. We all had
Is that
to
for
order
today?
chickens.
Make sure all your,
Is that what he's
all
talking
your
about?
devices are all charged up. Yeah, car's
Oh, okay.
charged.
I didn't hear what he was talking about.
We did all that. Give Trent just another minute. We'll go ahead and get started, because I know, Jeff's got a commitment at 1:00, so we're gonna boogie through parts of this. I was at a conference and I ran into some of your Ambridge people.
Oh, yeah?
I mentioned your name and they didn't know you. Something
No.
about having 12,000 hotels or however many you guys have.
I get that all the time. So, do you guys have, I have no idea where we have hotels, that changes every day. Changes every day.
Have so many.
They're so big,
There's
it's
some
ridiculous.
some marketing folks.
How you doing?
And corporate
Oh,
office.
good. I do. People in here.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It was like counting the days down till right after the eclipse.
They work with us. Oh.
At this point. Great coverage.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, Shatner was on Today's Show today, talking about it.
It's nice to know that I'm
Oh,
flying.
yeah,
under the radar.
talking about it. What is in Indiana?
But if they don't go, oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah, we've heard of
We'll have
that
to
guy.
look at that.
Yeah. the meeting schedule.
That's
That's huge.
Okay. Well, it's 12:05, 5 minutes after. When Trent comes in, we'll stop and do introductions, but let's go ahead and get started so that we could end on time. So I guess this is the unofficial, official call to order. And the first item on our agenda is review of the minutes from back on November 28th. And he said he's heading over here and just be here in just a few minutes. But so I guess our first act is to go through and review the minutes from November the 28th. See if there are any questions, corrections, or comments on minutes from November of last year.
Move we approve.
Second.
Well, motion in a second. I have no questions. Marshall, would you move us to a roll call, please?
Handle,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Next thing on our list would be the financial reports. So we'll go through and just give an update on where we stand for that. You'll have December, January, and February in your packet, as well as the tax receipts for up through February. If you'll notice what our carryover amount is over the course of the year. So our general fund balance we carried over was $3,721,053.53. In the capital improvement fund, we carried over $211,061.91. And in the convention center debt fund, we carried over $378,016.58. So all of those were increases over the, well, I'll take that back. The carryover balance for the general fund and for the convention center bond fund are bigger than we started the year with. And the capital improvement fund was down about 17,000. So that's what we carried over for the year. Any questions on that? If not, I'll bring us up to current, to the February 29th financial summary. And with that, you can see the tax receipts for the month of February reflected here in our current general fund balance is $66.70. One thing to note on this, we did approve in the November 28th meeting a $500,000 allocation for the Karst Athletic Field project. That is not reflected in this number. So that has been pledged and approved by that appropriation has been approved by the county council. And so to look at the true general fund balance, you have to deduct the 500,000 from there. So it's 2.944 million. Capital improvement fund is back up to $219,395.23. And the convention center debt fund balance is $464,016.58. So all those are good, healthy balances.
Mike, maybe I should add on that line item from the net income from the properties, we're saving up for some roof repair. So in that line item, you won't see income coming into that for a while till we get that money saved up.
Right.
And I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to do partial as opposed to a full roof on one of the properties. It's all bad shape, but I think we can get away with partial for the next year.
Right. And so that we're also due property, we're responsible for the properties, not just in this building, but also for rental properties that are on the lots we have held for convention center expansion and development in this area. And so that's what Tulish is referring to. And one of them needs a new roof. And so typically when we've done that, we've asked the management company that we employ to manage those properties for us to hold money back to do the repairs and not forward that to help offset the debt on this bill. So that's what Tulish was mentioning. Tax collections, you can see, January and February reflects December and January business. January business was down. I think we all felt that for hotels. And February was much healthier, so I would anticipate the March receipts to be much healthier than what you see in February.
So what's your sense of why January was so down?
Well, if you look at the pattern, that actually goes back to what it was pre-COVID, but it was a larger decrease in occupancy. I think just fewer events were going on at the time in town. I don't know, Mike, if you have a different sense of that. But.
No, definitely, the January started off a little bit slower. I did see, I'm not exactly sure their timing of when the food and beverage collection numbers, but theirs was up slightly. I do know, again, I'm not privy to the individual numbers and everything. I do know there were a few collection points that are late and their numbers aren't reflected on that number there. So it's probably closer to last year than you think, but as Mike said, we've had several months in a row of high growth, and it doesn't surprise me that maybe January starts off a little bit slower with the economy and spending and things like that. But we got a lot of really good things coming up here in the next few weeks that we're going to make up some of that ground. I'm just sure of it.
Yeah, I know for me personally and other hoteliers I've talked with, January was just a soft travel month.
Yeah.
And softer than what we had experienced the year before.
I see it in, I get the weekly star that shows us a competitive set, and I see it I think our numbers are a little bit worse than just a slightly bit down more than Madison and South Bend and those, but everybody's just down a little bit travel wise. I think it's just travel took a hit in the economy in January nationwide.
Mm-hmm. February was a stronger month. I think March will be too, certainly April.
For us,
yeah.
It always, Valentine's Day is the big kickoff for travel season in Bloomington, and it's always exciting when you have a really good January and numbers are up. But this year they were down just a little bit, but I don't know. If we have our next meeting and numbers are still down, we'll talk a lot more about it.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Any questions on financials, either on tax collections or what our balances are? We do have claims that we'll be going through today, but from the standpoint of what's been submitted, we do have adequate funds to cover all those. And this is our historical low point in our balances right now. So as you look at where we are, this will be our lowest point after we make these allocations. So, after that, revenue picks up all over, and our collections pick up. Questions, comments?
The only other comment I would make is just the difference year over year, especially looking at the trending of it. I feel like last January was almost more of an anomaly. It was much busier than Januaries typically are. So this was more like a return to normal than being down as much.
And then if you look at the December number before last year's, it was really low. So I feel like a bunch of those made up the following month, and that's what always happens. you know, they missed the cutoff deadline at the county, and so those numbers get counted in the next month. And we don't always know that. So
What is that cutoff deadline?
Marshall would know more than I do, and I don't want to put it on the spot, but it can vary, it can just vary by the month, depending on when the auditor's office closes, or when the holiday is, or when it falls on a Friday, or things like that, so it just,
December is always, I think this last year was like, it's supposed to be the last Wednesday of the month, but because of the holidays, it was more like the 20th.
So it's normally supposed to be towards the end of the month, but not the
Yes.
very end.
But December is whatever they deem and however the holiday falls.
So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how soon we'll know what the impact of the eclipse is. So would it be?
You'll know
towards the
that.
end?
So,
You'll
man,
know it.
So.
Yeah.
It'll be in the May collection stuff. You'll see that, so end of May, you'll see that. But there'll be indications of it much sooner than that.
a week later, anecdotally, I
Yeah,
can
sure.
give you a number that I'll see in a report that we can just do the math on, but, yeah, it's,
I think we'll all be interested to see that. Well, great. I do want to stop just for a moment to introduce our new Convention Visitors Commission Commissioner, Trent Seitz. I stop right in the middle of the financial piece, but I do want to say welcome, Trent. We're glad to have you on this commission.
Thank you.
So we were just running through our financial statements, which I think you got a copy of.
Yes.
For tax collections and so forth like that. We'd ask a couple of questions around collections and why the January numbers were down. I think we all, as hoteliers, felt January was down business-wise from the previous year. So
Yes.
we were just going through some of that stuff. So, but I do want to introduce just a few folks so you know who's around the table.
Yeah.
So I'm going to introduce first the other commissioners and then the others around the table. So Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself?
Jeff McKim, and I'm also on the Monroe County Council.
Nice to meet you.
And Mike Campbell. So I'm at IU Hospitality with the Indiana Memorial Union.
Yep.
And
Kirby Brown, I'm at Spring Hill Suites with Ambridge Hospitality. Good to see you.
Yep.
and then Trent, you're with
I'm at the Hilton Garden Inn. I'm with Hershaw Hospitality.
and so these are the 4 voting members right now on the commission. And then the others around the room, we'll start this way and go around just so that you don't get lopsided, you know.
Okay.
in your head and both directions. Alicia?
Talisha Kofik with the Convention Center Management Company and Downtown Bloomington Inc.
Great.
And we've met a
Yes.
couple times.
yeah, Trent and I have met a few times too. Mike McAfee from Visit Bloomington.
Yep.
Haven't seen you for a few months. Good to see you. Welcome to the group.
Thank you.
I'm Marcia Roach. I'm the CDC secretary, and I'm also the finance director with Visit Bloomington.
Great. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm with Disability.
I'm Jean Count, and I'm the sales manager here.
Good to see you again, Gene.
And plus, we have a member of the media here
That's right,
in the room,
Oh,
Mr.
great.
Askins from the B Square Bulletin.
Lovely.
So,
And we're on Teams as well, right, for the public?
Yes.
so just want to say welcome aboard. And then with that, want to jump back into the financials. And we had asked if there were any other questions on either the balances in our, in any of our 3 funds or with the innkeeper's tax collections on the monthly report.
I'd move to approve the financials as presented.
Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. So Trent, I know you came in the middle of that. If you want to abstain from this vote, I think that's probably appropriate.
Yeah.
And then jump in.
Roll call, Campbell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim.
Yes.
All right. Okay, now the next item on the list, 5 and 6, if it's all right with the rest of the commissioners, I would like to jump over those. well, I'm sorry, in the discussion of the interlocal. So if you don't mind, let's do the discussion of the interlocal. And then if we can get into claims approval on those claims that are presented before us. And then that way, Jeff, if you need to head to your next commitment, we'll have all of our business put down. I did have the interlocal agreement forwarded to each of the CBC commissioners and wanted to, first of all, just let you know what that means. So there is another body that has been appointed by several different bodies to manage the expansion of the convention center. And in the agreement, it talks about several things that overlap with some of the traditional things the CBC has done, like the debt load on the building, the property that's been accumulated. And some of this agreement touches on some of what we do. So I did, first of all, want to go through some of those things, make sure you are aware of what the interlocal agreement talks about so that you're comfortable with what's being brought up. If there are any questions, Jeff, I know, has been a large part of this discussion, and I've been involved in quite a bit, as has Mike McAfee and Talisha. So Trent, both you and Kirby, if you have questions regarding that, I want to make sure we're able to address that, get your input, and see. And there's a big, there's both an ordinance that was passed by the county commissioners, and then also the interlocal agreement, which was approved by 4 different bodies, both the executive branches and the legislative branches of both the city and the county. And that's the one I really want to make sure that we're paying attention to, because that does change a little bit about what we've done. So as you know, we've purchased property with the innkeeper's tax for the purpose of promoting tourism and in the area, and with the express purpose of expanding the convention center. And we've been working on this for a long time. And there have been a lot of steps that have got us to this point with the formation of the Capital Improvement Board. But one of the things it does talk about, and I guess I just want to highlight a couple of things. The purpose and duration of the agreement, it talks about the duration being as long, the Capital Improvement Board has been formed for as long as the bond exists to finance the project of the convention center expansion and the length of paying that off, or anything else related to that, which is deemed approved by either the city or county or both. But that's the length of that. The next thing I wanted to make sure is we talked about is what the role of the CIB is versus what it is for the CBC. So they talk about the CIB having the role of selecting a site for the expanded convention center and site for related amenities such as a host hotel, additional parking, or things like that that would help with development in this area. The other is the transfer of ownership of property assets, which typically would either be from the city or the county or the land purchased by this innkeeper's tax for that convention center extension. So some of that property is going to be transferred to the Capital Improvement Board. Doesn't indicate a timeline in the interlocal agreements. We'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions on any of this, or?
Not this time, because to be honest, I don't know what I don't know, so I don't know what questions to have yet. But right now, no.
Okay.
Has Carrie signed it?
Yeah, the interlocal is fully executed.
I guess it was just the next day, right after.
So the next thing it talks about is the capital improvement board. That 7-member body will direct the construction and funding of the expansion. One thing I think we probably need to is hoteliers need to talk with it and develop that relationship with the capital improvement board so they understand the hospitality perspective of what you need in a convention center in order for that to be successful. So that's not called out in here in any way, shape, or form. It does not talk about them having to consult with the CVC or it talks about a lot of other things, but doesn't talk about that. But in order for it to be financially viable and impactful economically, I think one of the things this body probably needs to do is to make sure that we're talking with the capital improvement board about what would be that kind of financial implication for those overnight stays,
Right.
For the community. So that's something which probably informally, we probably need to talk about how we do that, whether that's putting together a liaison for the capital improvement board from this body or other things like that. As we do. Questions on that?
Do we know when the CIB is appointed?
They're already appointed and have met.
They've already started?
Yes.
Okay. So it's 3 from the county, 3 from the city, various bodies appoint different members, and then of those 6, they appoint a 7th. So,
And all those meetings are public meetings. They're.
right.
There's another one this Wednesday.
And I will share that, yeah, it's this Wednesday, March 20th. They usually meet the second Wednesday of the month. This time because of spring break, it'll be this week at 3. But on the agenda, they have selecting a project manager, to also an RFQ for a hotel. So they're starting to think of that now, and a budget, but they have to get their budget approved by the city council before they can have actual money to hire their attorney and their project manager, at which time then they're going to start a site analysis and selection. So all those things that you were talking about, they're starting to talk about all those things right now. But I think a liaison to attend those meetings would be an excellent idea.
So I think that's probably something, and because of, I would say, between the 3 of us, that would be my thought. Jeff's a sitting member on the county council, and so it might be somewhat awkward for him to be that liaison. He's the liaison here for us.
It's also
In a
honestly
way.
difficult for
Yeah.
me to make meetings during
Yeah.
business day,
Yeah.
so.
So it's probably something which the 3 of us either need to have a point person and, hey, say, if I can't go, can the 3 of us attend.
Okay.
But I think that's probably something we need to go through. So,
And they're here, they're just across the hall.
Okay. You said they meet this Wednesday?
At 3.
and then that way we were able to bring it back to the group and talk about it and figure out what else we need to do about that. Okay. So moving into anything else on the project construction funding, all that comes from the food and beverage tax in the city portion of the food and beverage tax is what we're talking about. One concern I would have is that they build the facility
Right.
so that it's not a direct competitor for what we already have in town. And that, for me, is probably the biggest concern, is that we went small with this existing convention center in 1981 and was outgrown before we opened it. I don't want us to do the exact same mistake because we're hoping it's something else based on the funds.
Yeah, I agree.
Convention center operation and management. So this is actually right in line with what we have done as well. So not only have we been the landlord, property owner, and all that caretaker for everything, now we're talking about convention center management, and that is called out in here as well too. So the first thing they had indicated was that the existing county contract with the CVC for facility management will be assigned to the CIB as soon as practical, following the completion of the design and construction period. What I've heard from the Capital Improvement Board is they're not really interested in managing the facility. And so they have indicated that they would be interested in working with the CVC to continue that management role for the operation of the facility, which is something we need to work out with the Capital Improvement Board. That's something which we would want to outline and make known what we were supposed to do, what they anticipated us to do. And rather than our contract being with the county directly for that convention center management, it would be a very similar way, I think, for us to do that with the Capital Improvement Board. For those that have been in Indy, it's closer to the model it is with Visit Indy and the Capital Improvement Board up there for the convention center management. So there are some differences. But that's something else to work out and to think about how we operate in. We're supposed to provide the city and county with updates concerning revenue projections of the innkeeper's tax. I think we could do that easily enough. Let's just go into a public meeting if that's the way the city would like us to do that.
Yeah.
We do that with the county already as well too, and have a member of the county sitting here who brings it back to the working group. It does talk about funding, and that's where we start to get into the money, right? So it talks about CDC funding. It talks about operations and management of the convention center. It talks about the use of the innkeeper's tax to properly and sufficiently ongoing operation and maintenance of the expanded convention center with at least the same proportion or dollar amount, whichever is greater. Well, it would be dollar. So, and so from that perspective, one thing I don't think, and I've tried very hard in the meetings I've been to educate and say, it is not just the repair on the wall that's important, but it's the marketing and the incentivizing business to come in, which is also a part of our purview and should be considered as part of that operations piece of making sure that the facility runs successfully. So
yeah,
that's something to work through, I think, and make sure that we relate to the Capital Improvement Board. I think there's some understanding of that. There are some things in here I find concerning.
I did, sorry, I just want to make sure I understood what you said before. Excuse me, that the, we would be expected to fund the convention center at the same dollar amount or proportion, whichever is greater. I would think proportion would be.
You're right,
would be
it's
greater
going to be
rather than
that percentage.
Okay, all right.
The dollar amount would certainly be greater.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's where I misspoke.
No.
Any questions on any of that? There's one clause in here I'm very uncomfortable with, have been ever since, and that is that there is a provision in here which I hopefully will be able to look at, but it does indicate that if the city or the county do not agree on our budget, for whatever reason, we revert back to last year's budget. So really limits the amount of growth or potential. And so I think I was frustrated about this clause being in here. I understand why it was put in here. I think it's probably on us to ensure that we're working with the city and the county and also with the capital improvement board. I think if this body and the capital improvement board come to both organizations saying this is what we need, then I think it'd be very difficult to say, no, we don't agree, but you need what you say you need.
Right.
To do your job. So.
I mean, that was really meant to be sort of a nuclear option to force the parties to work together. I think that's.
Correct. And I understand why it's in there. I do think, I'm uncomfortable with it because too often in politics these days, and not in the county, but we go to the nuclear option, in some cases, and that has been, has left us, as an industry behind where we really should be. So I think it's really on us to make sure we're working with the capital improvement board, that other body that's responsible for making this successful, probably more than any other, to make sure that we're talking to each other about what they're needing, what they're funding, what we're needing, what we're funding, so that everything of the us, rather than the you and the we, is successful. So I think that's probably one thing, I think, from my perspective, one way to get around that potential poison pill. So, and I think there are a couple other things we need to look at and look at differently. So it's not called out in this interlocal, but as a result of the interlocal, I want to raise the fact that I think at this point we probably need to look at not just incremental change, but we need to think about how we market for conventions, how we sell conventions in an expanded center differently and on a different scale.
Yeah.
And so that's something which is probably another working group or something else I think we probably need to take a little bit more active role in. So, and not just at our quarterly meeting. Agreed. You agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any other questions or concerns with what you saw or what I've talked about in the city local?
No.
Just maybe clear up my head here, but is there any concern with the interlocal takes it to where the CVC is basically 100% dealing with the new convention center and not some of the other things that we've been able to do, like the Cars Farm and other things? Or does it become a dominant force in the funding?
Well, I think that's something we really need to make sure that we talk with the capital improvement board about. I think make sure that they're properly funded and that we're still able to promote the county and not just the convention center, which has never been our purview. But it's certainly a big part of it, right? It's an important part of it, how we do that, and continue to do everything else we do well, is something this body's really going to need to pay attention to. So, and it's a valid concern.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I look at it is that we were just talking about this, you know, the stipulation that we need to continue to fund the expanded convention center. That also implied within that is that we also do other things. It's just when we have a bigger convention center, we're expected to proportionally allocate more resources there, but not all the resources. I mean, we still get the innkeeper's tax. We still get to appropriate the innkeeper's tax and continue to support Visit Bloomington and,
Yeah, and I think an additional thing, we've put $600,000 of innkeeper's tax towards debt service for the last 20 years. And so that'll be eased up because all the debt service goes to capital improvement board. So, you know, now I think it's about 350,000 for operations and the other 600,000 is for the debt service. So that's gonna help dramatically.
One last thing I see, that I just want to make sure you call your attention to, and as hoteliers, and as the business end of the business. That we see this. So in the Article 4 under the miscellaneous provisions, you can look at this later. But in Section 5, it talks about the general intention as to the convention center. And the parties intend that the expansion of the expanded convention center shall also serve as a civic center for the use of community residents and nonprofits. So first of all, it says also. That's an important stipulation to me, is that it is an also. It is not the only thing. Although in a lot of public meetings I sit in, they talk about the use of it as a civic center over and over and over again. And that's important, and we do that here right now. We serve in that role right now. So it's not different, but it's an also use. Right?
And
So
one
I think
thing-
our policies need to be such where we are financially viable. So the latter part of that says consistent with the financial and operational needs of the expanded convention center. So there is, when you see that term, also understand that yes, we will be talking about civic center, but I think there's an understanding, and it's written in the agreement, that the understanding is that this serves as a convention center and can also be available as
Kind of like
the
a basic
wedding
on it.
shows, the home shows, all those things.
there are many elected officials whose support for this project was necessary, who very
Yeah.
much want to make sure that, you know, as it expands, as we get bigger groups, more statewide, possibly, you know, probably not national, but statewide and regional groups, that we don't essentially price local organizations out of the ability to use it. I mean, you know, a lot of the public support for the convention center comes from the fact that there are a lot of local nonprofits that much about the convention center and use it for their events, and we just want to make sure we don't squeeze the ability of local nonprofits out from being able to use them.
But it's not the only use,
Right.
right? It may not even be the primary use, although it's an important use.
Yeah.
Just like it is right now, right? So that's not different, even though it's written in this language as such. We've always done that. And so we understand the importance of that.
And some of it works itself out with our policies, like you said, like, you know, we have within 12 months or local events, then beyond that 12, 18 months are out of town overnight conferences, because they tend to book farther out anyway. So it's been a nice balance, really. I think there have only been that we've had issues, but for the most part, it's worked.
Yeah, you do a great job already of making that balance.
Yeah.
So one of the things when you mentioned policies, so with an expanded center, we probably need to rethink through the criteria for incentives. We need to rethink the criteria for our booking policies based on size and impact and things of that nature. Mike, we probably need a PACE report, 10 years out of attendance by month. We're moving from a level of, this is not high stakes to moving towards more high stakes. And so I think those PACE reports are important. We need to start developing those tools, or at least making those more accessible to this body and maybe others as well. Certainly as we articulate our needs and where we see demand coming, and things of that nature. We'll need some of that data. So I know I'll probably be asking for data from the both of you. I'm sure other members of the commission, I think will do the same. But I think sales and marketing and those policies are another area we're really gonna have to dig into. And very bluntly, I can't do them all.
Right.
So what I'm asking is that as the rest of our commission, that we start to farm out some of the primary responsibility in some of these areas. So if we want to think about it, or if you say, you know, I feel like I'm led for Mike Campbell's impassioned speech here to do this or that or the other, then please shout it out. But I think doing some of the areas we outlined, we're going to need to interact with capital improvement more often. We're going to need to sit in some of those budget sessions more often. We're going to need to work on our own internal policies, incentive plans, sales, bookings, marketing, as we start to develop. We've got to go ahead now to expand. Now what it's going to be, don't know yet, but can't wait. We can't wait until it's built to sell it. We're all have been in the industry. We all have worked in other areas and know you gotta sell it before it's built. So, thoughts, comments, volunteers?
I'm happy to be the liaison with the CIB. I can go to that meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, that'd be great.
Great. Happy to take a more active role in the processes and incentives piece.
I think that's great. Impassioned, please. Okay, any other questions, comments, or thoughts about the interlocal? We're at 12:47. Want to make sure we've got some time to do our claims and then move on.
No other questions at this time.
All right. Appreciate the discussion and for listening to me talk about some of the things that I saw. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if it's all right, let's skip over the Visit Bloomington report, the Downtown Bloomington Inc. report, and move straight to claims approval. And our first claim before us today is in the general fund. Oh, here. This is coming from the general fund, or that first bucket. I'm going to pass this over to you just so you can see it, Trent. And so if you'll look in that top section up there, in that section to the right, that's the dollar amount that's available in that fund at 3,444. And subtract 500,000. So 2.9 million is available. Okay. First claim is from the general fund for operating funds for Visit Bloomington. And this is in the amount of $492,313. And this is for, it says first quarter operating funds, is that right? Should be second, right?
Yeah, the actual invoice itself says second quarter.
Yeah.
Is it good? So questions or comments on this? This is normal operations from the budget that was approved last year, distributed generally and quarterly. It doesn't have to be in any specific amount.
Second.
Motion and a second. Marcia, if you, any other comments, Trent? Any, you want to move us to the roll call?
Campbell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes,
Is that the right pronunciation?
you got it. Thank you.
Okay, that being the case, you can just sign anywhere in the area under Kirby's signature of, nope.
I got it.
Perfect. Next claim that's before us is for first quarter professional fees for this body for Marcia Roach, acting as secretary in the amount of $147.50.
Move we approve the claim.
Second.
Motion is second. Marcia, would
It's like
you
what I
move
missed,
us
a third.
to
A third.
roll call, please?
Campbell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
I'll sign a little smaller, please, so we're steady in the box.
Yeah, we got an extra signature this time.
John. Okay, next one also coming from the general fund is second quarter operating budget for convention services for Downtown Bloomington, Inc. in the amount of $100,256.25. Any questions or comments on the claim?
Move we approve.
I'll second this.
Motion and a second. Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote, please?
Campbell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
So excited to have that fourth vote there.
Okay, the next one, the next two actually are capital claims. They'll come out of the capital improvement fund. And that is the second section on that general fund stat, or the financial report that I had sent over to you, Trish. This one is for replacing HVAC units here in the Convention and Visitor Center in the amount of $14,500. And this was quoted back in November. Has this work been done?
Yeah.
Okay, the work has been done. So this is, we do set aside money for capital repairs of facilities, both at Visit Bloomington's facility and then also here at the Convention Center for general upkeep and repair. And certainly replacing HVAC units falls within that. So,
Absolutely.
questions?
Just as a heads up, there's another one in the great room that's, the compressor's out and,
So it's likely
next
coming.
in a quarter, yeah, in 3 months.
Okay.
Once
All
it
right.
gets warm.
Or we have 4 units there and
Yeah.
we're down to 3, and so that's
Gotta
a
have air
pretty
conditioning.
important
It's a
one.
very
Yes,
intense meeting without air
Yes.
conditioning.
yeah,
We don't want that.
that'll be next quarter.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions or comments on this claim?
I'll move to approve this claim.
Thank you. Motion in a second. Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote, please?
Campbell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you also have to have water too. So this is for a water heater here in the building. And this is not a water heater, but a water softening system,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
So,
and that one is in progress. It's not been completed yet.
Okay.
So, but if we don't meet again for another 3 months, I thought maybe, okay, whenever it is completed, up to a certain amount.
okay. And this is for $7,350. Is this a not to exceed?
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions or comments? We certainly want soft water.
Just replacing an existing unit. I assume.
Yeah,
Move we approve.
Motion and a second. Trent? Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote?
Campbell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
so Marcia, we want to hold on to that one till,
I'm
we want to
sorry.
hold on to that. Don't turn that one in yet.
Okay.
I'll talk to you.
Last one that's before us today is for the loan payments for the renovation of this building, last time it was done. And then also some of the purchase of the contiguous land. That's actually some of the things we talked about for expansion of the convention center. So, the amount for this month is $159,000. That's the quarterly, payment for that. So, and that would come from that last section, Trent, which it says convention center debt fund.
Right.
Which is showing 400 and something thousand a year. Current.
I moved to approve.
Well, I got one quick question. I know this probably means nothing, but why on the invoice does it actually say quarterly installment of rent due? I mean, it's the right amount and it's the right
Yeah.
payee and everything. It's probably not important. It's just,
I don't know what, how it's listed on those are the two loan numbers, I think.
It's the Series A and B, and the building
7,
corporation leases the building from Monroe County, and Convention and Visitors Commission then pays that lease.
okay,
And it'll, yeah.
good explanation. Thank you.
Hopefully it will be clearer with the capital.
That's the goal. The goal of this whole CIB in the very, very beginning was to like, could we make this a
Explain that
little
bit.
simpler?
This
Let's see
actually, the
that.
payoff of this entirely, if we're still on schedule to pay it off, would be April 1st of 2026. It's paid off its entirety. So we pay roughly 630,000 a year on this, 636. And we're down to paying pretty much principal at this point. There's a little interest left, but we're at the very end of it. So it's mostly, almost all of it is principal at this point. So,
That's great.
any questions, comments?
I'll reissue my motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Second.
in second. Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote, please?
Campbell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
McKim,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
All right, I believe that's all the claims before us today. Jeff, we got you out of here. 3 minutes.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome.
apologize for having to.
No.
Is this being recorded on Teams? Okay, so I am interested in hearing the report, so I will catch it on reruns.
All right. Well, Mike, we've cleared the board for you.
My turn.
You take as long as you want
I'm gonna take
to tell us about all the cool stuff. that's
5
going
minutes
on in
tops.
Bloomington. And I'll sit here and eat my chips on camera.
I know we canceled the last meeting.
No, I seriously won't take that long. A couple things that one thing I just handed you, and you can find this on I didn't even print out the economic impact report, which is on here you go, this is what I'm presenting, if you want that.
Thank you, I apologize.
Our 2022 economic impact report that we got in late January is on our website, and this is our community tourism report for 23. It's also on our website, visitbloomington.com. Go to the impact page and you can find these documents. I'm not going to go over them in great detail with you. I got too much stuff to talk about currently that we're doing than to backtrack to last year. I feel like I've shared this with you via email a couple of times, and you know the numbers from last year. It was a great year. Another record year for tourism, 2.5 million people, 680,000 lodging room nights were purchased in the county. Visitor expenditures were up past the 2019 levels, which was, this is for 2022, as a matter of fact. 2023 is going to be higher as well, but I'm on page 4 of this community tourism report. If you're looking at what visitors spent and wages generated and jobs supported and tax receipts generated, you can see those numbers are way up. Our economic impact report, our growth was about 25% versus I think we're the 4th highest county in the state of growth. The average was about 15% and we were at 25%. So 22 was a great year. 23 was another great year. Like I said, it's weird to be reporting 22 economic impact numbers, but that's the economic impact numbers I have. And this is my 23 tourism report that just goes over those numbers. But, highlights of last year obviously are the progress of the Capital Improvement Board and all that's happening with that, because that's truly going to help us make a difference with weekday business. So I talk about, I'm not going to go into that stuff in great detail. You can find that community tourism report. I printed it for you. It's on the website. Stuff that's upcoming. Obviously, we got a couple of bumps coming up in the market. We're talking about how slow business is, but the women's team will be hosting games this weekend, which is great. State basketball championship. Basically, this is homeschool state tournaments at Twin Lakes this weekend. There'll be 110 basketball teams in town. So it'll be a big weekend in the market for basketball. Just helped IU land USA Diving Winter Nationals. That's happening December 7th through the 14th this coming winter. So that will be great. That's be a great piece of business for the market. Nice bump again there in the second week of December. We had a mental health group for 150 people in town last week, doing a site visit at the IMU. That's looking good. We think we're going to get that piece of business. Sean is on a MPI. I don't know if you know this, but Wednesday is Global Meetings Day, World Global Meetings Day. He's on an MPI Global Meetings panel on Wednesday. He won't be at the Capital Improvement Board meeting, but I will be there. We've got Connect Spring Conference coming up in Vegas the first week of April. Be out there making sales calls. Diversity Express Conference is the last weekend in April in Toledo, Ohio. Fraternity Executives Association annual meeting coming up at the end of April in Orlando. So all that stuff, big time for him right now with convention sales. Obviously all leading to July when we will be hosting ISAE here in Bloomington and presenting the community to 125 meeting planners. Leisure-wise, we're actually switching over the website this week to spring marketing from the winter marketing. Getting ready to roll out all of our digital and all of our marketing efforts in Indy, Chicago, Louisville, Cincinnati, and everywhere between, all spring marketing stuff. The Eclipse coming up on April 8th. I know you've heard all about it. William Shatner was on the NBC Today show this morning, with the main one, national news, talking about Bloomington and the Eclipse. So they will be here reporting live during the event, as will CBS. We've got national stories coming out in Forbes, CNN, USA Today over the weekend called us one of the best places to watch the eclipse. All that's coming from our PR agency that's just doing a remarkable job. This is an easy sell for them when William Shatner's involved. It's been great working with IU Communications on some of this stuff too. Really a nice relationship builder. I don't even think they knew who we were until we called them and said, we can help you with this media coverage, and it's been a real eye-opener for them. So yeah, a bunch of stuff happening with that. Working on another media tour. We're going to host about 12 journalists the first week of June. National publications will be here. We're doing a quick tour in the market for a Monday and Tuesday in June. They'll be touring here, Nashville and Columbus, doing stories on all three markets. We're in the midst of a complete redesign of visitbloomington.com. It's taking up a bunch of our time. Just all kinds of stuff like that, regular marketing stuff. Happy to answer any questions.
Staff-wise, you good?
Yeah.
No open positions or anything?
No open positions. We've actually hired an IU student this year. She's been working with us for a couple of months now and has been shooting video and kind of been our liaison to the campus. We're going to use her for some research and things that we're going to do over the next couple of years, all in our strategic plan. So, cool. Good.
Mike, are there still rooms available for the Eclipse in
There-
town?
There are, I answered another call this morning from WTIU about it. Obviously, every day that goes by, that number falls a little bit. I do think
Sure.
people are still, as of last week, I could find close to 1,000 rooms looking between the various properties. I haven't seen their availability report for this week. I expect that number to have fallen. I expect it to start falling quite a bit more now after spring break, and I think people are really gonna start making their reservations, making their final plans. The Eclipse goer is, some of them have multiple reservations made in multiple markets. They're watching where the weather is gonna be the best. They're gonna go in and cancel those at the last second, things like that. And they're frugal. They're watching where the deals are. We're getting all kinds of calls for where are the best deals and things like that. So, definitely, 3,000 accommodation rooms in the market between hotels and short-term rentals. And we're expecting with weather, 200 to 300,000 people, those rooms are all gonna sell without a doubt. So,
Whoops, sorry about that.
yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Questions? Okay. Let's move on to the DBI report.
Okay.
Alicia.
Just so that you know, and as a refresher, Monroe County had ARPA funds available, and because the hospitality industry was hit, our convention center, we closed all of that. They set aside some funds for some major capital improvements that we need to do here. And so one is the cooling tower that's in the parking lot, and one is our freight elevator. Those are two things that if we lose those, we're in bad shape. So that is out to bid now, and we should hear something back on April 10th on selecting. So the last 2 weeks of July after ISAE, we'll be putting in those two items if all goes smoothly. And then once we find out the price on those, anticipating there'll be several $1,000s left over to do some other upgrades in the building and or replacements and or keep things together until we decide what's gonna happen here. Right, exactly. But definitely some grouting on the outside of the building is needed, and those types, like this building will always be here in some shape or form. So, taking care of that's important. So we're excited about that. And then, so that you all know as well, we're the contact with the properties to the south. So, the tenants there are to December 2024. They're anxious to renew to 2025. We're anxious for the site selection and detail and to really get that going. So that looks like it'll probably be maybe after the city approves the capital improvement budget. But there's a lot of decisions to make once those architects can start doing that. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Jean, because she's our sales manager and has exciting news of groups that are here.
It's not completely new news, but this is an updated report from our last CBC meeting. It has you'll see some familiar conferences on here and so forth. The numbers, of course, did not change radically for January, February of this year versus the same time frame last year. So the 2024 conferences, I'm trying to mark these in a way so that people here can see people in this meeting can see what's relevant to it. And there were so many in the upcoming 2024 conferences who hadn't been here for a long time. So I started to put those in parentheses and red like I had been in the habit of doing with brand new groups that are coming here for the first time ever. So seeing that some of these, that's one of the first things that I ever do is to go and look and see if a group has ever been here before and there's been any kind of growth in the organization or how much different are their space needs going to be and so forth. So I looked for that early on, but when I went back with all and saw how long it had been, wow. What moving? Swing around. So whatever, all kinds of different reasons for that. So there are a few names in here, but not a ton until you get to 2025 preview. There are 8 new groups in all of these. There are just some mind-boggling kinds of organizations like the Folk Alliance and the Midwest Annual Conference, and that's a Midwest music community. And there are groups who are coming here from other places. In some cases, they've outgrown other places, like the February 2025 Environmental Resilience Institute that draws from statewide scientists and other people in the environmental science arena. And I happen to know the person who is working for IU now and managing that conference for this group every year. I've worked together with her in the past on a lot of different things, so it's a great surprise to hear from somebody who, knew of us and this place and thought we'd be a good fit. So these are all proposals that are out there now. They're in various states of negotiation. There have been other groups who requested proposals for certain dates, which we didn't have, and I've sent them alternative dates. So there's other things floating out there that where board approval has to happen for an association to consider another date if it's not on the typical cycle of annual conferences and so forth. When you get down to lost since December 2023, I picked December 23 because that was the last time that this group met. The groups that you see directly below that were groups that have come through that we've had to turn away from December 2023 when we last met through November of this year. There are other ones that we've already turned away that have come to me through Sean at Visit Bloomington, but those were all 2025 and beyond. And most of those are because, almost all of them, because the capacity of the group exceeds the amount of space that we can host at this point, and we don't have enough knowledge yet about what the future is going to bring, so I can't really do a complete job with that. But again, most of these one of these had an exceeds capacity reasoning, but everything else was just that we were already booked, and there were a lot of smaller things and then social things, but these were groups that I thought would be more relevant to the interests of this group. Any questions?
I'm good. So I noticed that one where you were talking about seating capacity, lost business in August. That looks like there's a lot of different requirements, not just one big room for this big event. So this would look like it would be this is just for one day. But this is,
yes.
But there are a lot of different styles.
They simply needed more space for that one day, and it really boiled down to the general session seating and then the vendor capacity happening at the same time, and the amount of space that we can put those elements upstairs, and you either do all of that at once, you either have it or don't. And then if I try to have wiggle room down here and I look at the number of breakout rooms they need plus an office and so forth, it's just not there.
It's a lot of moving pieces for a one-day meeting.
I put that in. We are working on things like this anyway and keeping track of these sorts of requests from groups. So we'll have something to look at, collecting data, look at it later. But this group, although this was a 550 person group, we do have a solid proposal out there. IU Conferences has an early convention every year, 2 days, 500 people. It usually doesn't come in as high as 500, but that's what we're planning for. But there are elements of the breaking out of the space are different from the second group that I recapped for you all. There was enough difference in these two groups, even though they were similar in size. I thought you guys might be interested in that.
That was my only question. Okay. If no other questions, is there any new business, anything we haven't talked about that we need to talk about?
Well, because with ISAE, we're spending a lot of money, like bringing them in. So I don't know if that's something CBC would want to get involved with helping make that a nice splash for them. I think we're donating all the food, I think, or the room rental,
Room rental,
all of that.
yeah.
And so I don't know if we have a budget for that, but wanted to just kind of put that out there. But
Mhm.
I think we're gonna need to have some kind of rendering also, something from the CIB, maybe tomorrow we can talk to them afterwards about that. We're gonna have all those meeting planners there. Hopefully by July, we'll have something that we'll be able to, at least a location and a draft of something, hopefully.
I can add to that, that my counterpart, Lisa Lamarca, who's our events manager, she and I are working on a cost projection by category for this group, so it will be a known thing as we head into it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think you meet again for another month, so that would be April, May, June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
Red carpet time, it's
Right.
starting.
I'm okay with that.
This group means a lot to us because it represents, it's the umbrella organization, or it could very well be for all of the associations, professional and trade associations in the state.
Mhm.
And that's our midweek, business in this location. And that's, hotel rooms and people who come back for a family weekend after they've been here on a work trip. We see it all the time. And Talisha sends us to the conference that this group has every year, of all the stuff out there. We don't miss this one. To see what's important to them.
Are you familiar with ISAE? Yeah,
We actually hosted them at the hotel last year.
good, great.
All right. Any other new business? Old business, anything we need to beat up some more?
I'm good.
No? Okay. Public comment? Any public comment? Okay. In that case, I make the motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
You third that motion?
I do.
Okay. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The coolest thing happened last week.
Yeah.